Your passion is calling. Your future is standing by. Tap into your potential. Virtual and on-site classes, dedicated faculty, diverse student experiences, and highly recognized programs. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Apply today and fast-track your career. The future is ever-changing. Communities, jobs, and economies are continually being transformed. This is why we need incredible minds to connect problems with innovative solutions, to disrupt and create new industries, to enable businesses to think sustainably, to shape evidence-based leaders and the next generation of visionaries. SALCC helps you to shape your career. Your passion is calling. Your future is standing by. Tap into your potential. Virtual and on-site classes, dedicated faculty, diverse student experiences, and highly recognized programs. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Apply today and fast-track your career. The future is ever-changing. Communities, jobs, and economies are continually being transformed. This is why we need incredible minds to connect problems with innovative solutions, to disrupt and create new industries, to enable businesses to think sustainably, to shape evidence-based leaders and the next generation of visionaries. SALCC helps you to shape your career. Your passion is calling. Your future is standing by. Tap into your potential. Virtual and on-site classes, dedicated faculty, diverse student experiences, and highly recognized programs. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Apply today and fast-track your career. The future is ever-changing. Communities, jobs, and economies are continually being transformed. This is why we need incredible minds to connect problems with innovative solutions, to disrupt and create new industries, to enable businesses to think sustainably, to shape evidence-based leaders and the next generation of visionaries. SALCC helps you to shape your career. Your passion is calling. Your future is standing by. Tap into your potential. Virtual and on-site classes, dedicated faculty, diverse student experiences, and highly recognized programs. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Apply today and fast-track your career. The future is
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Youth and Democracy Forum, where we give youth the opportunity to ask the burning questions to our different political parties and their leadership. Last time, well, before we broke for lunch, we had the United Workers' Party represented by the Honorable Alan Chastanet, leader of the opposition, alongside Tommy Descartes, candidate for Castries South, who gave us a brief overview of their party's philosophy, history, major policies, and direction for the country. We now have the St. Lucia Labour Party, who will be taking us through that ride once again, but on a different spectrum, hopefully. Before we proceed, of course, we will lay out the ground rules for engagement.
So remember that the purpose of this forum is to give the youth a chance to ask their questions and hear your views. The youth are the future of our country, and we believe it is only fair that they have a seat at the table as well. Just some ground rules. First and foremost, ensure all phones are either turned off or on silent to avoid any distractions. Also, please note that this is a respectful discussion, so questions will be asked in a respectful manner. We are here to hear their views and give ours, but it will be done respectfully. There will be no attacking or pointing of fingers. When you have a question, raise your hand. We will call on you, and you come to the mic, state your name and your question. Also, good afternoon to our live audience. We also have a very active live audience, so we will be getting some online questions as well for you guys. Okay, without further ado, at this moment we have with us the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, and alongside him we have Senator, the Honorable Lisa Jawahill, who is also the candidate for Castries Southeast. So please put your hands together for them. They will now be telling us their philosophies, a history of their party, as well as their plan for national development and policies.
Yeah, thank you very much. Excuse my voice, I've been talking a lot. So I'm Dr. King to check me out this year. First of all, I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not here to give a lecture in either economics or philosophy or thing. You're going to school. You're either going to school now. You're either going to school now, or you will go to school, or you just left school. I left school a long time ago. So I'm not getting involved in any lectures in economics or lecture that kind of thing. I want to talk to you about the practical things in this country, what will affect your lives, what will affect your lives in a practical way, in a real way, in a way you can touch it, not in a way that is illusionary or in a way that cannot happen. I want to be as very practical as you, and I want you to stop me, and I want you to go in your phones and fact check me if I see a figure. Fact check me, because I'm not going to just tell you figures, right? So if I say something and you want to check it and tell me, Chief, you lie. I don't have a problem with that, because I'll try my best to tell you exactly what is true. Now, let me introduce Sister Lisa. She is a senator. She's a candidate for Castries Southeast. She's a communications person, so she can talk better than me. My name is Philip J. Pierre. I went to school some time ago. I have a degree in economics and I have an MBA, but I forgot most of what I learned. So. Okay, let's look at a practical situation. In St. Lucia, in the region, we have a real threat of climate change. It's a real threat. So any plans that a government can deal with, they have to factor in climate change. Because we can get up next week and the entire country can be destroyed. So all the plans that you make can be destroyed. So in dealing with development, particularly physical development, what people want to call strategic development, you must factor in climate change. So my government has decided that to factor in climate change, we must help ourselves. So we've created a sovereign wealth fund that will say to the people that we beg, listen to me, we're not only begging you and doing nothing for ourselves. We're doing something for ourselves. We are begging you, but we are saving something in terms of climate change. So our sovereign wealth fund will be used basically for adaptation and mitigation for climate disasters. That basically is what our sovereign wealth fund. How do we fund our sovereign wealth fund? We'll fund our sovereign wealth fund from deciding that we're going to use a percentage of our GDP to fund it, and we're going to also use some proceeds, not less than 5% of the proceeds from the CIP program. The CIP program has been spoken to a lot. You heard a lot about the CIP program. You heard there are no financial statements. That's not true. The financial statements for the CIP program were laid in Parliament last year. They are late because of the very nature of the program. Those of you who in the business of accounting will know that there's a shortage of auditors in this country. There's a big shortage. So the CIP accounts were has to be audited by an accounting firm, and then the firm has to be very meticulous. So fact is, there have been audited statements that have been laid in the House, and the set that are delayed will be laid. They are ready, but they will be laid in the next sitting of the House. So to say there is no accountability for the CIP funds is is not true. Now, let me tell you how the CIP funds are used. The CIP funds have a donation which must go in the National Economic Fund. So once there's a donation, the investor donates. As a donation, it goes into the National Economic Fund. The National Economic Fund, right now, it has $65 million. Everybody knows that. That is no secret. Once there is an investment, it goes two places. Donations, and the nations must go into the National Economic Fund, or in terms of projects, and I'll come to that in a while. Where does the country make money from the CIP? The country makes money from administrative fees. These administrative fees are used to run the unit, because there are about 40 or so people working in the unit, well-paid people in the unit, young people, and the rest is put in excess cash, which is there to be used by the Minister for Finance. Not Philip J. Pierre, the Minister of Finance. Now, every challenge for the CIP program has been thrown out by the courts. You must have heard a whole story about the RICO case, a fellow called Martinez, a whole story that went haywire all over the place, how I was supposed to be taken to put in a plane and with written on it FBI, as opposed to be some jail in Washington. At the time they were saying that, I was feeding my dog at home. So you heard these things. I mean, you live in this country. You heard all this thing about a plane coming and take Hile, myself, and somebody else to take us for CIP. You heard that. You heard that. That never happened, right? Because that was never supposed to happen. What happened? There was a guy called Martinez who laid. Let me welcome Kenson. There was a guy called Martinez who had an issue with the St. Kitts CIP program. And I want you to stop me and tell me and stop me and say if I'm saying anything wrong. There's a guy called Martinez who had an issue with the CIP program in St. Kitts. Martinez has done no business in Lucia. Martinez has not sold, bought, or dealt with one citizenship program in St. Lucia, not one. Martinez took the St. Kitts government to court, and he used us as we were used not only as a decoy, but we were collateral damage. He thought he could use us to damage St. Kitts. He did a RICO case. A RICO case is a case that you can set up in the States if you think there's fraud or there's a connectivity. The RICO case, he mentioned one solution. One solution. He threatened. He mentioned the former Prime Minister of St. Kitts and a few other people, but he mentioned one solution. He has threatened from that day to mention the Minister in charge of CIP and several other people. He has not mentioned anything, and he withdrew the case. He withdrew the RICO case against the CIP program. He withdrew it. Right. There was another challenge in the courts in St. Lucia that the leader of the opposition wanted the courts to stop the infrastructure option. The infrastructure option is the option that says that you can invest in a citizenship, and then that investment, we can use it to build roads and build school buildings and build community centers. The leader of the opposition went to court to stop it. Before he did that, it was stopped already, so the court dismissed the case. So every independent check that has happened on the CIP program has failed. What you hear is politicians. But factually, the RICO case was thrown out, and the case against the injunction against the CIP, against the infrastructure program, was thrown out. Now, so where do we get our money from CIP? We get our money from the administrative fees, and donations go straight into the National Economic Fund. and then the rest of the sale of the citizenship, the investor uses it for the investment that they see fit, that has been approved by the government of St. Lucia. Right? So there has not been one instance where the St. Lucia CIP program has been brought into disrepute in terms of scandals. What you hear is talk. St. Kitts, Dominica, Grenada were in the CIP program before all of us. And most St. Lucia depends on the CIP program, the least in the OECS on our GDP. The CIP program is not 10% of our non-tax revenue. It's the least. So St. Lucia depends the least on the CIP program because we started late. I just want to rest assured. Now, in terms of the mechanics of the CIP program, St. Lucia has been criticized because we take too long for citizenship because of the level of due diligence that takes place before somebody has got a citizenship. So I want to stop the CIP program. If you have any questions, so we can move on.
Thank you so much for your informative and very insightful overview of the CIP program in St. Lucia. I just wanted to ask you if you can touch a bit on your party's philosophy and a bit of the history of the St. Lucia Labour Party.
Oh, I was coming there. On other few things I know fully, right?
Okay.
But you know, history, we have history. We were born, our party was developed in 1951, all of us in this room. 1951, the Labour Party came into being. But I just wanted to deal with these issues, CIP, Sovereign Wealth Fund, the issues that are that cause debate and discussion, and after we'll go into the history and the philosophy, etc.
Okay, so good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. My watch is broken, clearly, Mr. Prime Minister. Afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister Mijao here, Mr. Casimir. I'm Ethan Glasgow. I'm a student of the
And you can show any question at them, eh?
I'm a student.
They're brighter than me.
I'm a student at South Louis Community College, and I was in the House of Parliament when the Sovereign Wealth Fund was debated. I was there with my law class, Ms. John's law class. We were there. There were 15 of us, I think, from year 1 and year 2 that were seated in Parliament when we met you. So my question now, when you debated this bill in Parliament, you said that the Sovereign Wealth Fund is fully in line with the Santiago Principles. So I'd want to quote a little something from page 15 of the Santiago Principles that says, and I quote, "The SFW, that's Sovereign Wealth Funds, operational management should be conducted on an independent basis, in effect free of political influence or interference." So Mr. Prime Minister, how does the Sovereign Wealth Fund operate free from political interference and influence?
Very good question. Sometimes we use that word political interference, and political interference in that case means party political interference. Labour Party, UWP. The word political interference is sometimes used very loosely. Every decision taken is a political decision. It may not be a party political decision. It may not be a Labour Party or UWP, but it's a political. There is nothing in this world that's not based on a political decision, either on philosophy, on ideology, on history, on perception, on religion is political. So our Sovereign Wealth Fund will not be chaired by a chairman of the Social Labour Party. It will not be chaired by a minister of government. It will not be chaired by a senator. In fact, the name that's proposed, and I hope he doesn't feel I shouldn't call his name now, to chair the Sovereign Wealth Fund is a guy called McHale Andrew. All right? He's the one. And in there, there is a professor from a solution professor. There's a banker from New York. He's an international banker, and 2 or 3 other people. The truth is, I did not choose them. I allowed the technocrats in the ministry to choose them. So I can assure you, the Sovereign Fund has no party political. But I'll tell you something. We seem to be very afraid of ourselves as an independent people that can make our own decisions. When you went to the Caribbean Court of Justice, the politicians, Donald Trump chooses the judge in the United States. The US president chooses the judges. Why we as a country are so mistrustful? And you young people must protest against people that believe you can't control your own affairs. Why do we believe that you must always have a outside thing, a foreign person looking over us? We're capable. And this is why we insisted that we would go to the Caribbean Court of Justice, because we are proud people with a proud history. We have ability. In that room, we probably have 2 or 3 prime ministers. You all might get there, but you all have the ability. So why, as young people, must we always want someone to look over us? And I think we must fight that idea that politicians, you, on the 1st of December, you control all politicians. You control all of us in the 1st of December. You control us. So why don't we have enough confidence in ourselves as a people? So I want to tell you, bro, that the Sovereign Fund has no party politics in it. I can assure you. And the Sovereign Fund is clear. Adaptation and mitigation. Because we can't afford to make people who pay, because any aid we get comes from taxpayers in other countries that help us. So we must play our part. And the Sovereign Fund is to help us play our part.
So back to the question, Prime Minister, about the history of the philosophy.
No, so we're done with CIP and we're done with. All right. So let me take a drink of water. Can I choke?
Yes.
All right. The St. Labour Party was formed in 1951. It was the St. Labour Party makes no excuses for being a workers' party. Philosophically, the St. Lucia Labour Party is a workers' party, and that deals with the empowerment of people. So, if you have a choice between a road and somebody's education, we'll choose the education. If you have a choice between a building and school books, we'll choose school books. If you have a choice between spending money to build an airport, we're going to build an airport, but we're going to choose money to educate our people. We make no excuses for being a party that believes in the upliftment of people, all the people. We do not believe in a dual society. We don't believe in a society where one set of the people must do very well and the other set are not doing well. We believe in a country, in a society of equal opportunity. That's what the Labour Party stands for, equal opportunity. If you look at, anytime a Labour Party is in power, is in government, I want to use the power, our policies are based on people. How we improve people's lives. This school is Hunter Francois. People. So basically, philosophy number 1, people. Philosophy number 2, equality, bread, freedom, and justice. We believe that every man is equal in terms of what the society must be able to offer him. Bread, freedom, and justice. We think the society should not allow any man to go in starvation and other people are living over the top. But we also we believe in meritocracy, that what you put in is what you get out. And we also believe in profit. We believe that we must create an enabling environment for people to make profit. So it was the Labour Party that developed the Arnold Valmores, the J.Q. Charleses, you understand? The Elvin Maslers. These were black businessmen, black solutions who commanded the economic heights of society. The Owen Kings, intellectual in medicine. It was the Labour Party that created an environment for these people to develop. So the Labour Party is not anti-business or anti-profit. The Labour Party is pro-St. Lucian. Philosophically, I said, we want to develop an entire St. Lucian who is ready and able to work in the real world, to exist in the real world. We also a party that believes in integration. We believe in one Caribbean. We believe in the history of Caribbean nationalism. We believe in a Caribbean society. We do not think that our future is not tied to the future of our Caribbean neighbors. We believe in one Caribbean, in one Caribbean nation, Caribbean integration, and that's why we are firm believers of CARICOM, and we are one of the only countries that we meet all our obligations as far as CARICOM is concerned, because we believe in the theory of one Caribbean. Now, in terms of economics, the Labour Party believes in empowerment. It also believes in profit, but it also believes that the benefits of the economy must accrue to as many people as possible. It was the Labour Party that created the banana industry under George Charles. But it's the same Labour Party that also dealt with adult suffrage, a struggle by George Charles when he was a trade unionist, that every man who was 21 years of age had a right to vote. Before, the only people who could have voted were people who had money and people who had property. It was George Charles that caused us to vote. It was George Charles that had the Contract of Services Act and the Equality of Employment Act, where women must have the same employment opportunities as men. The Contract of Services Act is an act that decides how workers engage in the workplace with their employers. It was the Labour Party. And it's the same Labour Party that dealt with adult suffrage that gave us the right to vote. And it's this Labour Party, under my leadership, that did the Minimum Wages Act. It's a historical obligation that we have to the people of St. Lucia, and we make no bones about it. Contract of services, equality of employment. It was the Labour Party that said, once 51% of the people decide on a trade union, you must recognize it under Kenny Anthony. It was the Labour Party that said equal pay for women and equal pay for men under Kenny Anthony, the Labour Party. And this Labour Party under Philip J. Pierre has done the minimum wage. So historically, what our party stands for is clear. Historically. And the late John Compton was a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party. So in terms of our philosophy and our history, that is what. And further, it's a Labour Party that really empowers youth. The youngest minister was Minister Rambali on the Labour. She was 21 years of age. When we had the confidence to put her up on the election and make her minister. The Labour Party, my staff, 1, 2. Younger ones out there, 3. You understand? Yeah. So the Labour Party doesn't hide, and it's very sad that that the Labour Party hasn't documented its history. And that's why I insisted that the document you have in front of you, the Labour Party must document what it has done. Because you hear a lot of rumor and unfair things, sometimes said well, which is really does not align with what the Labour Party stands for. Let us deal with the Labour Party's philosophy. The Labour Party's philosophy on education. The Labour Party believes that education should be available. We should have an equality of education. It should be available. It should have equal opportunity for all. But we understand that not all people are the same. You understand that? Right. So, let's start from the beginning. You have people tell you a lot of things about good sounding things, about strategic this and strategic that and this thing. These things are very good for students of economics. But students of practicality, that I am, and he is, and she's coming to become trying to. We have to deal every day with people. We don't deal with books. You understand? Last week I was speaking to the IMF. You guys know about the IMF. And I said to the guy, look outside there in the window. You see no computer, you see people. I have to deal with them. I have to hear their cries and their anguish and their pain and what they want from me. I can't tell them nothing about strategic this. I have to tell them how they feel in the children tomorrow. And how they feel in the children tomorrow depends on what I do that is practical and what I do that will happen. So let's talk about education. Do you know, there are a number of children in the system that need special needs. This country, and we are going to be correcting that, have to have a special place for special needs children. Not a place in terms of a physical place, but a place in terms of, in the education ecosystem, special needs children. So you can talk about all kind of things. All kind of things. Smart classrooms, which we are doing already. But if you do not deal with this special needs that is needed, there are schools in this country that I speak to the teachers, and they have children in form free that can't speak, that cannot read at a level of infant, and in form free, just went through the system. So how can you have, and it might be done to us, we are fortunate, but it's reality. That's what I face every day as a prime minister. How do you deal with these children? How do you talk about strategic that, and you have these children, and it is a wide part of the population. It's more than you think, I'm more than you comrades, more than you think. But we hide it. We keep it under the barrel. So what is the government doing? The government is having a special input in terms of special needs education to get these children in a level where at least they can function. At least in a restaurant, they can fill a check. You know the amount of people go to jobs in the hotels they build in, and they don't come back because people say they're lazy and they don't work because they can't read. Comrades, they can't read the instructions. They cannot read what's in the label. They can't prepare a check, so they rather say they're coming back. And we call them lazy. And we say that work they're doing. And we bring so much investment for them and they're doing. Because they can't read. So you have the hotel. You have the job. And talking about hotels, this government has built the most hotels. But point is, they cannot read. They cannot read. And they can't read instructions. So you tell a man go and work in the kitchen as a chef or helping a chef. And he says, oh man, that man lazy. He can't read 2 teaspoons. You know what 2 teaspoons? When I know about 2 teaspoons? Because he went through the whole system and it didn't come true. So we have to deal with that. So all these strategic things you're talking about, unless you have a system that will cause these people to be able to function in the strategic area that you're talking about. So you talk about special education. So early childhood education. Do you know, comrades, that it is said, now you can check me, I am a doctor, I am a child expert. I only have one child. It is said that the majority of childhood development comes between the ages of both conception, both and 5 years, some say 2, some say 5. Do you know that's the most important time in a child's life? And do you know that because of the economic system that we have, working in the hotels, shift system, working in these children, they don't see their mother, they in a place, they undernourished, undercared, some of them abused, because the system doesn't have the enabling environment for them to grow up. So what we do? The Labour Party has decided that we're going to make early childhood education free of charge. From soon after birth to kindergarten to infant school, free of charge. Because we believe that you have to improve that environment for the child. How do we do it? We've started. We've given, the government has preschools that the government funds 100%. So we've started, whilst we're in the process of making that education free, we are helping the private preschools. So we give every private school, free school, $3,000 to help them, and we give every mother $150 to pay her school fees. That's step number one. To uplift the quality of early childhood education. Hopefully, if we get re-elected, we're going to see if we can gradually make it free. But to make it free, we have to train the teachers. We have to license them. We have to make sure that the environment that they're in is conducive for early childhood development. So we're going to be licensing them. We're going to be training the teachers incrementally. So next year, we might give them $5,000 and take a cohort and train them. Right? So we are uplifting early childhood education. But there is infant education and there is primary education. What are we doing there? In there, we are saying to the parents that you should not, because of lack of funding, be unable to send your child to school. So apart from the support that we give at the level of school books, etc., the government is paying all facility fees for these children. Now, there's a saying, I think it's from Bob Marley, that says, he who feels it most knows it. Now, for you or for me, $200 may not be a lot of money. Not a lot of money. You understand? But for a mother, the 4 children. Now, let me just go back a little bit. We have a serious population problem in this country. The population is aging and you're only making children. You understand? If I check out all day, you'll tell me one child. But I didn't set a good example, so I can't dispute you. Right? Now, so you have a situation where the population is aging and we're not replenishing the population. So, what's happening there is that we're going to have a serious drain on our NIC. So when you have people talking glibly about raising the retirement age and talking glibly about it and playing politics, which is serious issues. The NIC is not no Minister of Finance that determines the NIC or any minister, It is determined by a science, and a curial science, a science. Scientists are the ones who determine NIC based on projections. It's a mathematical calculation. And you as young people must stand up when you hear me talk nonsense, if I do, or when you hear other people talk nonsense. And I find young people are too silent. Young people are too afraid to call the powers that be out and say, you're talking nonsense. But young people believe, some people believe they must only call out governments. Because people talk about NIC retirement age and using it as if it's a political thing that Philip J. Pegg got up in the morning, he was so bad, he decided he would increase the NIC age. You must call them out. The retirement ages are worked by science, and there are only few companies in the world that can do it. If when you want an accurate review of the NIC, you have to wait for it for about a year or two. Because that's how important that science is. So when you talk about population trends, and you talk about retirement ages and population growths, that's a science. So I'm coming back to you in St. Lucia, where we find we have a problem. Even at the surface you can see it. In the Marshall School, there are less than 200 children. There are schools in the country where the student ratio is 1 to 4. 1 teacher to 4 students. You can understand? 1 to 5. And we can't not be able to teach us for that. But there are other schools where the ratio is higher. So we have an issue with our population. So we're back at education. So we decided that we must make education as equitable and as accessible to as many children as possible. So the government decided that they would pay facility fees. So every child would be able to go to school and pay the facility fees. The government pays for them. Primary education. With that also, we do a lot of education things, but I don't want to go to that. That's the view. I just want to tell you the main thing based on a practical philosophy. A philosophy that you can feel the impact, and you can see where the vision is in terms of what population that you are putting into the world. Then you go to secondary school education. Secondary education, we continue the 1 laptop per student. That was started already, but there was an experiment called e-books. That experiment failed. Now we have to call it out. It failed. Why it failed? I don't know. That e-book, you agree with that? It failed, comrade. It failed. So when you have people begin to speak glibly about e-books and these things sound good. They sound good, I did something. I could plan today and come here, right? And give you a lecture, a feel-good lecture, When you leave here, you're in the sky, but I'm on a real talk good. But practically, the e-book failed. It failed. So here's what we did. We reinstated the 1 computer, one laptop per child, and we are developing content by local people somewhere in that compound. There are people who are sitting now who are preparing local content for the computers that the children use in the school. St. Lucians. They're somewhere in this compound. And they have already done, I think, 5 or 6 subjects. So here it dovetails with the smart classroom and the use of AI technology. That's how it flows. it doesn't flow only from an idea, it flows from a practical step.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. We're just going to take a short pause for cause. I see our audience has some burning questions as well as a lot of questions coming in online. And so I think I will allow them to start, and maybe we do about 3 of them before we allow the Prime Minister to continue. Okay, maybe a little bit more than 3 questions.
Mama. Okay, so good afternoon. All right. So I'm Ian Hyacinth. I'm a student here at SARTHA. So I have 2 main questions. One to do with education, as you spoke about already. So looking at the development of TVET education in schools themselves, how to bring it up and expand on it, how exactly the government plans to do that, as well as sports education, special needs. Right now we have 5 special needs schools on island, and they have limited space. I know recently there were only 2 slots available at the school for people with hearing and learning disabilities. Not Donata, I can't remember the name of it right now. Lady Gordon, right? I'm not sure how many spaces they have now, but it is a limited space, and as you said, there are much more that go undetected. And also advanced education. We have a lot of students in the education system that are working ahead of the curriculum. How do we cater to them? Because students like me, for example, I was going well, but then there's a period of stagnation because I have to hold back to catch up to those that cannot keep up. So in terms of, because you spoke about individuals that could be the next prime minister, individuals that could go up, how do we cater to those individuals that can succeed, go far excel, and prepare them for life without holding them back? And also on housing, I want to know what exactly the government's plan is for development of housing. Sorry, I think somebody has a question there. Right? Yeah. Particularly in your constituency, Castries East, which there is an issue within the Marshall area there, and Castries Central.
People say that.
Yeah. And Castries Central as well, the CDCs. What's the plan for development of that? Is there going to be a bringing of gentrification? What's going on there? Because the CDC buildings have been there for too long.
Okay. First of all, I saw that we spoke about special needs and education. Now, but there's a main thing no politician talks about: funding. Funding. Where do you get the money from? Now, you didn't ask me that when I tell you about the health and security levy. Okay, you didn't ask me that. But I want to talk to you about the health and security levy. Politicians right now are making a big hoorah about the health and security levy, right? Telling you it has caused the cost of living to go up and but at the same time, these same politicians tell you they're going to make South free. They're going to make $75,000 health insurance. They're going to make mortgages free for everybody. You get a house freeness. They're going to give you, or the same politicians talk about those things. Not one of them spoken about funding. Now let me tell you something about, now this is a theoretical thing that you can check out. The foreign investment comes in this country, most of it comes on concessionary terms, tax incentives, tax-free holidays, duty-free, even VAT-free. So there's a calculation that you can do for yourself that says what portion is called the multiplier effect. Now let me profess, I studied economics a long time ago. You understand? So I'm not arguing with nobody about theoretical economics. I talk about practical economics. Economics of life. Economics of the streets. That's what I talk about. Book economics, I gotta go and study again. And I too old for that. So, when we talk about investment, you have to say to yourself, whilst we look for the multiplier effect to take place, and $1 of foreign investment, how much of it is circulate in the economy, why that is going, you have to fund your own development. And you have to fund your own development by two ways: taxation or grants. Two ways. Taxation. St. Lucia's tax ratio to GDP is one of the lowest in the world. Google. You understand? So, when the St. Lucia is highly taxed, the facts not show that. Now, the Health and Security Levy brings in, at its main, $42 million in the country. The first year it was brought in, it brought 18. The second year 33. This year projected 42 million. Healthcare. I know this year. You see, we are talking about St. Jude yet, and them and healthcare and health insurance. We haven't talked about them things yet. Health and security. $42 million at its most. Healthcare alone cost the government $219 million alone. And you hear complaints every day. Some of it very unfair. Some of it grossly unfair. And I feel for the nurses and the doctors and the people who work in the health system, how they are so constantly criticized and brutalized when they are doing such a human job. Not all of them, most of them, 99% of them, when they go to work in the morning, they go to work to save lives. And they get brutalized because you want to attack politicians. The cost of healthcare in this country is extremely low. When you go to healthcare in the States, the cost, but we brutalize our healthcare workers because we want to criticize politicians. So let's get back to the point. $42 million, $219 million for health at the level it is. I want to know, what is the answer? How do you fund healthcare to bring it to a level that you're speaking about without some form of levy on the people of the country? So you got healthcare, housing. I'm glad you spoke about my constituency. You see, this election, 1st of December, I would have been winning my seat 6 times. Okay? Now, you have to ask yourself why. Why? Because every year they have the same refrain. Every year. Last night they were by my home, every year they would peer. Incidentally, I live just in my constituency. Yes? So every year they would peer. Which I find is actually an insult to the people of the constituency. Yeah? Because you're saying to them that they're stupid, that they're electing somebody that is not capable. You're insulting them. Because the people in my constituency are very smart, smarter than most. Street smart is the best smarts. So, housing. The problem in the constituency is the land tenure system, the land. Let's look at the areas that people saying have bad housing. It's only a few areas. Enchipo has good housing, Bocage has very good housing, Independence has good housing, Ravin Chapel has good housing, parts of the Mon have good housing. In only a few areas. Area number 1, George Charles Boulevard. And let's be practical. The land in George Charles Boulevard belongs to people who do not live there. They've abandoned the area. St. Lucia has a land tenure system. You can't just go and take man land. You have to acquire it. I wanted to do a facility in the George. So when you conversation about what has happened in my constituency, I just laugh because the people know and they feel. We wanted to do a public facility in the constituency. We had to acquire the land. To acquire the land, there are family disputes, brother, sister fighting. So you have to get all that done before you can get the land. Most of the time, the land just remains there and remains abandoned. You have to acquire all of it first. We are trying to acquire the land in Bagatelle. It's taken us more than 10 years because of the way the land tenure system works out in St. Lucia. Now, I was not in government for all the time. After the years that they say I represented my constituency, I was not in government for 10 out of these years. In fact, 11. Last time it was 5.5. So, the question is, if it is so easy, and if you want to get rid of me so much, because I've been such a useless representative, why in the 10 years did you not show the people what you could do? Show them. No, they could not. Because first of all, their intentions are bad. And second, they couldn't do it. So housing. So here's what I want to do for housing. First of all, we want to try to develop the quality, the basic quality of the houses that exist whilst we go into bigger things. You use a good word. It may be a discussion, but these are serious discussions you have. Why that George Charles Boulevard should not be an extension of Castries and you move the people there to somewhere else? That has its issues that you just do it. Because you can't take them out from there and put them in another area. So you have to decide, how do you do it? How do you move them? What area, where do you prepare for them? Do you create a new city? Remember, in the last campaign, I spoke about a new city. I was ridiculed, as usual, in the nonsense. So a new city. We need to build new cities. To move this and put them and you extend Castries, which is happening right now in Brooklyn and in London, where all the areas of Brooklyn that were so-called inner cities, they're moving them out. So it's a bigger plan. It's a plan that won't happen in 5 years, but it's a plan that will happen over time. You need to talk about legislation. You need to talk about social impacts. You need social impact analysis. So it's a very serious. What I'm doing in the meantime, I'm trying to improve the quality of life where they exist now. How am I doing that? Lighting, roads, footpaths, housing repair, water, internet access, children's parks, playing facilities. I am trying and I am doing improving the quality of life by doing for them what most of us take for granted. And what that means? That means improving the footpath to the home. That means giving them railings. That means giving them steps, which to you, when I say I'm not talking about you generally, is nothing. Because we pull up our big car, up our drive, close our gates, and you go in. But we don't understand what it means for someone to take out their shoes and put by the road when they have a date. Now there are one of us that want to check girls in my constituency, and the girls send them, and they tell the girls, wait for me by the road. No, you know all them nice girls, they first want to check them, but they want to go where they live in. Now they can go there, they can drive their car. you understand? They can drive their car now. So when you tell people about this kind of thing, that's real things. And that's why the people always re-elect me, because they feel the real change in their lives. So that's housing. Special education, TVET schools. We started the 4 TVET schools. Right now, one is being expanded. Now, we know that TVET education, first of all, you have to have the psychological mind change, the mindset of the parents. You know, there were parents who were crying when the children passed for TVET schools. So, you know, politicians just talk and talk and talk and talk, especially now. But You have to have the psychological shift for somebody to understand that a child going to a TVET school is doing just as well, albeit in a different way than a child of 10 months. So we're expanding TVET education, but it's a gradual process. Higher education, the government has a policy of 1 university graduate per household. And that policy, and we have to do it in stages. First of all, we have to go to friendly countries and ask for scholarships. So this year, 41 students went to Taiwan. A few going to Morocco. But our students must also understand that when they go to study, they are going on holiday. They have to make the necessary sacrifice. And they have to represent the country well. So you cannot go and study somewhere and at the first hint of discomfort you protest and you get on. You must understand that the taxpayers are the ones paying for us. And again, if you tell people you don't want to contribute 2.5% to a health and security levy for your own health care, where you know where it's going, how you can tell them to take their taxpayers' money and give you grants? Or how can you tell them to take the money to give you to fix your country when there's a natural disaster and you don't want to take something and put in a sovereign wealth fund for your natural disaster? What could they ask you? What contribution are you making to yourself? So when I go and I say, I want a loan to build a health center, they say to me, what are your people putting? What are your people doing? I say to them now, my people are contributing 2.5% towards that health center. So when you have a big hue and cry, oh, he lied because it was part of a conditionality for a loan. What's wrong with that? All loans have conditionalities. One of the conditionalities for the first PBL was the Public Finance Management Act. All loans have conditionalities. So we must make a contribution, and health and security levy is our contribution. All right? So I don't know if I can come back, but I see they have a big line there.
Yes, I would just like to highlight a question from the chat very quickly. Thank you to Ms. Volson for facilitating. This question is directed to all three of our representatives on stage. Any of you can feel free to jump in. The young person said that hearing a lot about GPH through the year, why was the decision made to lease the port to GPH and not leave it in the hands of SLASPA, especially since parts of the agreement seems less beneficial to the people of St. Lucia, example, not allowing the development of the port in Vieux-Fort and the $1 that SLASPA earns to the 10 of GPH?
First of all what you say is not true. It's always not true. But all right, let's get back to GPH. There are two ways that a country can develop its infrastructure. You borrow, or you go through a PPP, public-private partnership. Now, the government decided that we'd go through a PPP for GPH. Now, look at the conditions under this PPP. Condition number one, SLASPA's loan of $20 million, don't hold me to the thing that, was paid. So it releases SLASPA's debt. Secondly, the port has been leased for 30 years, leased. And during that lease period, the port is going to be improved. You've seen the development starting on the side. The Vendors Arcade is going to be built. And the people that we lease the port to are one of the biggest cruise facilitators in the world. They're not only in St. Lucia, they're in Antigua, they're in Bahamas, they're in Puerto Rico, and one of the largest in the world. And they bring clients with their ports. Number 4, what the customs and the security features in the port are not touched. What we've exchanged is we've exchanged part of the fees for the company to deal with the infrastructure development and the adding up of maize, etc. to the port. And the port comes back to us. So the question is, do you borrow and you increase your debt to GDP ratio and you stop the same construction of schools, construction of roads, because your debt to GDP ratio is high? So your school construction goes down because you can't borrow to do it. Your strategic borrowing that they want to talk about, you can't do it because you haven't got your debt to GDP ratio is too high. Or you go to the private sector to invest because they have confidence in you and you keep your debt to GDP ratio lower than it is. That's the question.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Next question. Oh, please.
Want to. Thank you. Prime Minister, if I might just add, SLASPA's, the cruise port part is only about 10% of SLASPA's earnings. So there's this misinformation that is being perpetuated that we have sacrificed the development of a home port. That has never taken place under this government. In fact, there are arrangements where GPH also has the opportunity to have first right of refusal. They have the opportunity to develop it as well. But like the Prime Minister said, there are only two ways, whether you borrow or you have a public-private partnership. Now, if St. Lucia is engaged in that regard to develop for a home port, the research will be done, the assessments will be done, and that will be considered. It's not one at the risk of the other. We have to look at what existed when GPH first came into St. Lucia. Under the previous government, there were concerns. And under our administration, when we came into office, Prime Minister had concerns as well, along with Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, who is the Minister with responsibility for that. And we wanted more for the people of St. Lucia, rather than just developing the Castries waterfront. We advocated for Bannon's Bay development, where we would have an opportunity for the fishermen, their lives to be transformed as well, and more economic activity on that part. Further to that, we know that every tourist goes to Soufrière to explore the sulfur springs and to also explore the pitons. But Soufrière also has a port, and Honorable Emma Hippolyte advocated so persons in the south will not be left out of the discussion. So in the south is very well included in what exists with the arrangement with GPH as well, and work has already begun on the Soufrière waterfront that's going all the way to Barons Drive to transform that as well. So just to clarify these two things, that cruise port operations amasses about 10% of SLASPA's, 10 to 20% of SLASPA's revenue, and the developments that this government argued to ensure that even the South was included in the GPH project.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ethan Alexander, a student at the college. I want to say firstly, it's an honor to ask my question, and it's not political oriented at all. We have this forum to speak about our future, right? And you said that one of your philosophies, the St. Lucia Labour Party's philosophy is integration, regional integration. And I have seen certain comments from, Kamala Bessad-Bissessar, the Prime Minister of Trinidad. I would like you to answer that question very carefully because I don't want to be in any trouble. But, yes. So, what is your honest, take on that, hindering regional integration, especially the statements that she has put out on CARICOM?
Can I pass that question? Sorry, I got to pass it now. I prefer in the environment, very good question, but in the environment that I'm operating now, I prefer not to. Okay. And I apologize for that. And no offense meant, but I can answer in your head.
Afternoon, my name is Gadisha Donati and I'm a fourth year nursing student at SAFA. I have like 4 questions I want to ask. The first one, in the manifesto that you gave on page 26.
No, that's not manifesto. That's
Whatever it is. I'm not sure whatever it is. There's a page on there that says that $1,000 monthly allowance to student nurses. I'm a student nurse and I'm not aware of that, what's being done. I want clarification on that. I'm also concerned about our healthcare. And recently we had the handing over of St. Jude's. I'm from the south, from Saltibus, which is very dear to me. I want to ask why both of our main hospitals, when it is being built, that only 100 beds are accommodated for the hospital when we have a population of over 1,800 people. And the next question is, you did speak about education within your community, and I want to ask about the libraries, which is very concerning because I have been trying on countless times to get to the Grosjean library and has been closed on numerous occasions. So I'm asking, what are the plans of the government when it comes to libraries? Because we do have children who don't have access to devices and also Wi-Fi at home. What are the plans for the government when it comes to that? And also when it comes to crime, because we do have a problem where a lot of our young people are dying. And what are the plans of the government to try to, I wouldn't say eradicate it, but to try to involve the young people?
All right. You want to do the last one first? You want the last one first? All right. Crime. Do you think that the Prime Minister of any country would not do anything in the world that he could do to lower or eliminate crime? You agree that, right? Right, fine. Okay. You would also agree that there seems to be a pandemic of crime in the entire region. St. Lucia, no exception. That doesn't mean it's good. Fact. There seems to be a pandemic of crime in the entire region. There also seems to be a development of a gang culture that should not be encouraged under any circumstances. I want to say that again. There is also a development of a gang culture that should not be encouraged under any circumstances. 4, the root causes of crime did not happen with today, yesterday, or day before. We made a point about special education. A lot of these people, and you know, and another thing, I don't want to speak about things, and I know I get criticized for that, saying things about things that I don't have intimate knowledge of. That's why they have doctors. That's why they have fellas like him and communication people. Because, you know, some people believe because they become prime minister or minister, they have the answer to everything. I know the answer to everything. I have to have discussions. I have to talk to people. I have to speak to experts. Experts are trying, and they continue to try to find a problem for the pandemic of crime that is in the region. Experts. The University of the West Indies, they have a whole panel of people, I think 25 of them in a room every day trying to find out the answers for the crime pandemic in this country, in the region. So I will be lying to you if I get up to them and tell you I can rattle out the solution for the crime problem in St. Lucia. I'll be lying to you. I tell you what I have done, what our government has done. Our government has increased the level of social support in the country generally. Our government has worked with NGOs to see if we can cause people who at risk, people who are at risk, if you can cause them to reverse that trend. Our government is working now to avoid people who go to prison from returning to prison. Our government has decriminalized the use of marijuana for 4 grams. So if a man is caught with a joint, he doesn't go to jail and it doesn't give him a criminal record, so you don't throw him back in the jail and he comes out worse. Our government has stiffened the penalties for gun possession, for the use of ammunition, and for the use of guns in crime. Our government has increased the resources of the police more than ever in the history of St. Lucia. Our government is trying to reduce the backlog of cases in the courts by, 1, developing our physical capabilities with the House of Justice. 2, creating a special criminal court at opposite the comprehensive school. 3, increasing see if we can get a new system of sentencing, a payroll system, a new system of sentencing, so you can have people, instead of sending them to jail, you can have them for community sentencing. 5, our government has increased the resources to the police force to have more men on the ground to do what it's supposed to as far as crime is concerned. That's what the government has done towards crime. And lastly, the government is trying to develop a St. Lucian who has a pride in his being, who wants to be part of St. Lucia, who wants to live in St. Lucia, who loves St. Lucia, who feels a level of confidence in St. Lucia, who believes that he or she can have an impact in St. Lucia. So that's what the government has done. That's what the government is continuing to do. And I'd like anybody who has a different solution to come tell me, I'll implement it. Anybody. 2, you spoke about, You spoke about what?
PM, I wanted to chime in on crime quickly. I have a mic. Crime.
What?
Right, come in there. You see, crime is a national issue. Crime is not something that is solved by any one institution. You have to tackle crime with proper policies in every sector in a society. And there's no quick turnaround to dealing with crime. Your sporting infrastructure is critical in crime. Your youth development programs, critical to dealing with crime. Your tourism product, you may not see it, but it's critical to tackling issues of crime in a society like ours, because this is where the financing comes in. So when you have a government that has ensured that even in sports, that young men and women on blocks now can see a pathway to becoming semi-professional athletes and a pathway to then becoming professional athletes, perhaps not just generation, but the next generation growing up in our inner communities can choose a different pathway. When you have a government that is in my constituency building 4 new hotels, about to open another 3 very soon, it means that you're creating opportunities for individuals to get work. You are creating and stimulating a sector where even from the time you get into primary and secondary school, you see a clear pathway to becoming better citizens. When you have an education system that is transitioning from, as PM spoke about, where individuals get to Form 4 and Form 5, and it's a real issue, and they cannot read and write, when you're starting to open technical vocational studies earlier for these individuals, you get a pathway where people can use their talents and their skills to become better individuals. When you get a government that is now investing in a youth economy, so that from very early you identify who you are, I believe that when I came through those walls at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, I already knew that I would be I had a dream that I would be doing what I'm doing here today. When we can tell individuals from that particular time in their life that whatever you see yourself doing, a government is going to make public policy to ensure that you could navigate more freely. When you have a one laptop per child, you have one university graduate, you have the opportunities to navigate more freely. You have the opportunity to tackle crime that is proactive. So this government, in every walk of life, in agriculture, transition in agriculture, in tourism, in youth development, in sports, in every single sector, education, we are dealing with the proactive nature of dealing with crime. And this government has also dealt with the crime itself in terms of the reactive nature. We provide ammunition to police, better facilities. We are building, if you do not know, state-of-the-art Northern Divisional Headquarters in Grosley. We'll be walking through it very soon and taking pictures for you to see. The Halls of Justice, you're building more police stations around the place, jet skis for police. This is the reactive nature. So even in the reactive, when you've increased the number of police officers on the ground, you've increased every single sector, even in terms of payments to civil servants, payments to police officers, all of these benefits, you have a highly motivated police force. So you have more of these individuals on ground, which would then, on some level, deter criminals. But the fact of the matter is, even sociologically speaking, we as ministers here, we cannot stop an individual right now who has decided that on some boulevard or ghetto somewhere that somebody disrespect him, that is going to do something. We cannot deal with that issue right now. But what we can do as a government is to get people to understand and see a better path for their life. See a better way to get out of their particular situation. And I'm very confident that the work this government has done over the last 4 years, once continued and sustained, we will see eventually a downtake in crime in our country. I'm very confident about it. But we have to be discerning. We have to see that what we are doing right now, how we transition our different institutions right now, have a huge bearing on what happens in our future.
Thank you. And if I might add, Minister, I know you touched on the youth economy, but as it stands, about 3,000 young persons in St. Lucia have benefited from that program. Whether they've been able to access the $5,000 grant, which is free towards the development of their business ideas, or they've gotten access to training and mentorship that they would not have gotten before. Now, I went to Sir Arthur, and straight out of Sir Arthur, I needed a credit line of 2 years. I needed to have been banking in a bank to get any loan. And Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister Pierre, when we were in opposition, campaigned on this flagship promise of introducing that opportunity to young persons who, like myself, would have had to wait for 2 years to bank money. But now you from Sir Arthur, at your age, you're 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, you can apply to the youth economy and get funding for your business ideas. Policies like that have caused a reduction in the unemployment rate. Because when Prime Minister Pierre came in, it was about 20, 25, 26%, thereabout. Right now, it's in the single digits. It's 8.8% as of, I think it was last quarter. And these are as a result of the policies that the government has been implementing, giving access to the MSME loan grant facility, where you have access to $25,000 and you only get to pay 30% of that. Crime reduction can only be addressed through a holistic approach. It's my opinion and the opinion of many persons who might be listening on this live. You have Dr. Stephen King, who has been working with Rise St. Lucia, a social group, playing their part with safe spaces. They also work with the government of St. Lucia. The churches, through the Ministry and Department of Ecclesiastic Affairs, they work with the government of St. Lucia. Historic support to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Unprecedented. All of these things contribute to getting our young people off the streets. But when, like Minister Casimir said, God forbid, we can leave here today and something could have happened based on that person's circumstances in their homes. And it's only through that holistic effort we're able to strengthen our systems like the family, like the church, because government, Dr. King, in my opinion, cannot be the sole source of how we're going to stop crime. It's an approach that every single person must make in terms of how we used to care for each other, caring for your brother and sister. So I just wanted to add that. Particularly for me as a young person, and Minister Casimir can relate to that. When he first graduated from Leon Hess, he only had 2 CXCs. He only had 2 CXCs, but it was under the Labour Party he was able to get more support to rewrite his CXCs after working in the ministry. And then under Labour Party, he was able to get a scholarship to do his bachelor's. Under Labour Party, he was able to graduate with a master's degree and start his PhD. Now he's a minister for government. I grew up from a vulnerable community and vulnerable family as well. I never knew how I would attend secondary school. My parents could not even afford $1 a day for a school feeding program. And when I passed for Castries Comprehensive, everybody was like, yeah. But I was very afraid because I didn't know I would have an opportunity. And in 2000, Kenny Anthony implemented a bursary support program where that $500 changed the trajectory of my life. So Prime Minister, going back to the philosophy of the Labour Party and why this party in particular understands education. And yes, we can go into the fundamental cure for poverty is education. We know all of that. But it's tangible results that empower young people. Tangible results like the 3,000 lives touched by the youth economy, that almost 2,000 touched by the MSME, the fact that unemployment is now down to single digits. All of these things contribute to reduction in crime. I hope that these answers altogether have perhaps answered your question, Miss from Saltibus.
A statistical fact, a statistical fact. Now again, I don't mean misquoted. A statistical fact. Crime is lower this year than it was last year. Statistical fact. Don't shoot the messenger.
Thank you.
The nursing question is unfortunate that you were not, that you do not know, but it's a fact. All first year nursing students, the government pays $1,000 towards their tuition. No, semester. Huh? Oh well, monthly semester. What is it? Semester.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, Minister, Senator. Of course, in the interest of time, I have been assigned the impossible and daunting task of ensuring that responses are concise, questions are concise as well. So I apologize in advance, but I'll be stepping in a little bit more. But you may go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Stephen Steele. I'm 19. I'm a first-time voter. And y'all have talked a lot about youth so far. I know the Prime Minister said about infants, and things were also said about secondary school. But I'm 19. A lot of people here are 19 like me and probably voting for the first time. So the question I want to really ask is, what is the main reason that it should matter to us whether Labour Party wins or UWP wins? What's the main reason?
Meantime, is nothing else for that?
I thought what I just said would have given you a whole lot of information.
For me, I just feel like, and a general consensus for people my age is, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Well, the difference is, I mean, we were in government for 4.5 years, right? We've documented what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Another government was in going for 4 years. What, do you remember what they did?
I mean, we were all young back then, to be fair.
All right, fine.
I was from 2016 to 2020, I was probably the age of like 10 to about maybe 14, you know. So I wouldn't know per se.
Okay, what would you like to see done that was not done or not in the process of doing? We've spoken about education, spoken about sports, we've spoken about youth development, we've spoken about every aspect. Because I'll tell you something, you'll never live in a perfect society. You will never live in a perfect society, never. So if we are looking for a perfect society, we'll never get it. There's a place called Singapore, they say is the most advanced country in the world. People have things to complain about in Singapore. And by the Singapore is a dictatorship. They do not vote in Singapore. So I agree with you. I think you having this quote unquote mind of why must I do that is a good way to be. If you're not so, you're not a young person. But you must deal with the reality. Your youthfulness and your intelligence must show you the reality. You must look at the barriers under which we operate as a country, the resources available to us, our small size, our resources. What can we do in our circumstances? The environment in the world, the global situation. How does the impact of a war that people decide to fight in Ukraine have on us? How does it affect our cost of living? How does, when people decide that they'll fight war, it causes the price of things to go up? So in thinking of what is in it for you, you must look at the environment that you live in, and we must never live in a bubble. Realistically, you must say to yourself, as a young person, what do I expect from a government? And what in real terms, in reality, can that government do with me or for me? And you'll find that a lot has happened. I've spoken about the number of things, we have made available to people. The amount we've spoken about a number of things. Of course, a lot has been done. There's a lot more to do. But the fact is, lots has been done. So I want to answer your question by telling you, realistically, you must tell me what you figure we can do more.
So, I mean, y'all have spoken about a lot of things like scholarships. I think this is a very good thing, especially for people my age, like I said. There's a lot of scholarships to Taiwan. It would be good if we had more scholarships to go to other countries. Me personally, I did not want to go to Taiwan because I did not want to, deal with a lot of the cultural differences. It would be nice if we could, go to countries that are a bit more familiar to us. But yeah, that's just how I feel.
So you voted?
I'm voting, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next question.
What constituency? Rosalie?
No. My rep is Stephen Smith.
No.
I'm pretty sure if it was Grosley, you say that.
My name is Dickwan Charles, and I'm also a first-time voter. I'm from Castries Central, and I currently serve as the acting president of the Castries Central Youth Council. So my question is more catered to the Honorable Kenson Casimir. I wanted to ask, is there any plan to basically make the inactive councils more active? Because I know a lot of constituencies, their youth council is very inactive. And I also have a question relating to the National Youth Parliament. I had the opportunity to partake in the event, and what I saw, it was simply just a 2-day event where we would come in, debate, and go home, and then nothing would happen as a follow-up. So I wanted to know if it would be possible where that the youth that are interested in Parliament and also interested in politics would probably get mentorships or a little bit more of an insight to how Parliament works instead of it just being a 2-day event.
Very good questions. I can give you my experience before I became the Minister of Youth. Exactly what you're doing is exactly what I did in Grosley. And there's a huge shift. And I think we may need to scientifically see exactly what caused that shift and how we could deal with it as it pertains to volunteerism in our communities. The youth groups and youth councils are volunteer organizations. If you look at, I can say for me, when I was growing up, every single thing I did in Grosley as a young person, I expected no compensation for it. Nothing. There was never an expectation that if we went, for instance, at an elderly lady's house, cleaned it up, cleaned the backyard, cut the grass, cleared the drain in front, that there would be a compensation. There was never that expectation during my time. This generation, there's an expectation of a compensation for almost every single thing. Generally, not all people. You may be different. There's an expectation for compensation, and not just financial compensation, but compensation in other ways. I have had, as the Minister of Youth, the record number of 18 and 19-year-olds asking me for contracts, and they are not contractors. I'm just telling you. So, even within our communities, volunteerism is on an absolute low. So, you ask, how do we stimulate youth and sports councils? How do we actually encourage it? Again, I don't want to say transaction, but it feels like as a minister, the only way to get it done is to incentivize them. I have in times past spoken to volunteerism in terms of hours be used towards, whether it's towards tuition, whether it's towards something to do with education, something to do with work, because we are a government that has ensured that young people can get into a youth service corps, meaning you transition from secondary or primary school, and we give you an opportunity to work for a year within the structure of government or with a private individual that may be willing to give some of the salary while we as a government give the other half. We've been doing that. So other than incentivizing, which would be costly, which will be very costly, and ensuring that individuals that are part of voluntary organizations are given first dibs at things like scholarships. These are some of the ways I personally believe that we can ensure that we have more vibrant youth and sports councils. I'll tell you what my position is. When we are giving scholarships, and it used to happen before, and I believe it's a criteria that we need to continue to use, you must show some level of community connection. And a lot of the times, the Ministry of Education, they are the ones who decide on scholarships. It's taken to cabinet for ratification. A lot of the times, I don't feel that enough consideration is given to an individual that is not going by the beach for a sound clash, not going and play football, not going out on a date or two on a Saturday night, but staying in the community to help develop them. I believe, personally, that that person should be given consideration over somebody who is only academic for scholarships. So these are some of the things that we have by policy that we have to augment and make adjustments to, that I believe may bring back some level of volunteerism in our communities and may stimulate more activities within youth and sports councils. I think you asked another question. Youth Parliament, my brother, I want Youth Parliament every month. I'm just telling you, I love Youth Parliament. I've seen some of you at Youth Parliament. It's always interesting and intriguing to hear from you what you think about what's happening in the community. Again, these things cost money. We, at the end of the day, we don't have the budget or the financial space to have it more often. But I would like to see a situation where anybody, and I think to his question from Castries North, I think a lot of lives would be changed if you all can spend a day with any one of us and see what we do for a living. So in terms of mentorship, if anybody comes and spend, like this afternoon I'm going Grosley by a place called Seaview and chill out, and if any of you could see what we go through as MPs I think it would be life-changing. So I believe in mentorship. I believe in those programs. I believe in somebody as a young person acting as a youth minister in terms of shadowing for a day or two to see what are some of the challenges. Because when we speak a lot of the times at ages 18, 19, and 20, we have a very romantic view of what should be and how things should be. That is that stage. We all go through it. But there are realities, as PM said, in terms of finances, in terms of the global nature of what's going on, in terms of what impacts us as a small country, that we really sometimes, and I know that you're at that age, are not familiar with. But at the end of the day, we have cost constraints. I would definitely be looking into it. We did, as I sat with my PS once and spoke about whether or not we can have youth parliament a little more frequently. But I believe personally that you can make certain requests to spend some time, even at the ministries, to shadow somebody and see how you can develop from that experience.
I'll just jump in really quickly. Mr. Steele, you're a first-time voter. Many of you are first-time voters. So I'll tell you, as a young person, I like to keep it straight. The difference that you heard this morning, because I know you met with the United Workers' Party, and now you're meeting with the SLP. The difference between the two parties is truth and honesty. As a young person, I'm telling you, and I could not make the excuse of not being of that age to understand what happened under the time of Sir John back in the day, but I had to do my research so I could decide which party I wanted to affiliate with. Prime Minister instructed for this document to be presented to summarize what the SLP has achieved in 4.5 years. There's documented evidence of what the previous administration has done, and you need to find the time to compare the two. In the campaign that we are going through now, it's a campaign fed by misinformation and disinformation and AI and everything that is so artificially generated that in my time I look at, and right now even shocks me, at the fact that people take mics and stand in platforms and it's rebroadcasted on the news when they say that we are going to help you chop up your meat and package it and sell it on Amazon. And they tell you that we are going to build tunnels under the Peter Floyd in Forestier that will join to a road and a 4-lane highway in Grosley and in Dennery. Things that are unrealistic. And you have to make it your responsibility as a first-time voter to make those assessments. A party who tells you that they would have given you 23 islands. A party who sold land not just to foreigners, but people who are undeserving, who are not able to give tangible results as well. Versus a party who campaigned on promises, who is not perfect. None of us are perfect. Prime Minister is not perfect. He's a human being just like you, and he makes mistakes. But the things that he has campaigned on are the things that we have been able to achieve. If you look at the Labour Party's 2021 manifesto of putting people first, titled You the People, and compare it with the promises made, promises kept document, you would realize that we have achieved almost 100% of our promises. And in my opinion, that is where your voting should be informed. You need to understand what was there before and who said before and what they delivered or did not deliver versus what the SLP said they would deliver and what they are doing. Unrealistic as that, because you and I know that in our lifetime we won't be able to build a tunnel from under Peter Floyd to Dennery and to the north. But that is being said on national television and children are watching, and that scares me. So you see, I am a candidate for SLP for Castries Southeast now, and I've put my life on the line, and all what that comes with it is because I understand why SLP is different. I understand why SLP believes in empowerment and not mendicant mentality of hand to mouth. So we're educating you through the youth economy. We're educating you by offering you scholarships that are available in Morocco and the UK as well, not just in Taiwan. Record-breaking scholarships. What PM said of addressing even early childhood, unprecedented. A minimum wage that sat on their desk from since 2009 that they did not implement, and he's the one who made it happen. Politics is not bad. Politics is how you govern. And it's up to politicians how they decide to campaign, but it's your responsibility to understand the difference between the two. And I hope I've been able to summarize it for you, but you should also do your own research.
Just allow me to take the hand.
So this is a question from an individual.
She a pan player?
Yes.
Yes, she
played earlier here, sorry.
Tell her she must come to the open up. She must come to the open of my panyard. You heard about it? Heard about my panyard?
She's with the champions from the north.
Forget about it. Did you hear about the opening of my panyard? In Marja? You didn't hear that?
Diamond Steel.
On Wednesday, I'm opening the Diamond Steel Gregory Manuel Panyard. You are welcome.
Okay, so we have a question from an individual in the audience. If you could just give us a little wave so they know who you are. Right. So, she said, given the St. Lucia Labour Party's commendable push for universal access to education through initiatives like the free education policy, a significant challenge to its effectiveness persists, which is chronic student absenteeism driven by underlying socio-economic barriers. From her frontline perspective as youth director of St. Lucia Red Cross, two of the most pressing and tangible barriers are school feeding programs, number one. Even with a minimal co-payment of $1 per day, many families struggle to meet this cost. And the second one is period poverty. The inability of young women to afford menstrual products results in them missing several days of school each month. So pretty much she's asking, what is the government planning to do about this too?
The second one is actually a very hurtful one to me, and also insulting to the people of St. Lucia. And I really think the people of St. Lucia should stop allowing people to insult them. Because you may recall that when I was as Minister of Finance, after talking to the cabinet, we took a decision that we would make an investment in period in sanitary napkins to not alleviate but to reduce the incidence of period poverty. You may recall that. That announcement was, you heard about it? You in St. Lucia? That announcement was, the most vile things were said, including personal attacks on the Minister of Education. Personal attack on the Minister of Education, where he was accused of the most vile thing. But sometimes you have to comfort yourself by saying, men only speak about what's in their own minds. So you see, what I've said to my people, Father, forgive them for not what they do. Because for a man to think that if a government takes a position to have a reduction in period poverty, which you so eloquently have described, and I see it every day in my constituency, the difference between a pad and bread. It happens every in my constituency. When a government decides that they will do something about it, and you're attacked, you said the country just like Haiti, and it's because a minister at his own personal, I don't want to repeat it, for that policy. These people should be called out. These people should be called out, and these people should pay for their words. But anyhow, we've done that initial $250,000 investment in period poverty, and we're going to expand it. Next budget, I'm going to expand it. It's incremental, so incremental, but it's been handled purely by the schools, not by us. You know, these policies, miss, the politicians, we never touch it. We never touch it. We don't know who paid facility fees. We don't know what student pay for. We don't touch these policies. Every child, the government pays facilities for them. Every child, the government pays the forced exit subjects. It's not a matter who you are. It's a policy that we have. In the same way, we just made over 1,000 temporary workers. Do you believe that when you speak about, when people tell you what people do for their constituencies, you know that there are people in the government system that their salary at the end of the month was $150? Yes, that's what their pay packet had. $150. There was some $90. Let me tell you why. Because they were on contract for 2 years, and the financial institution had to take off their money. So if they borrow $10,000, the financial institution had to take out with the interest money that they would be able to get their money back before the contract is over. There were people who worked so for 16 years, 20 years. You understand? And then that's a life-changing moment for them. Now these people are full-time workers. They can go to the bank and say, all things being equal, I will leave work at 66. So the loan can be stretched until that level. Right? So these are kind of things we do to alleviate that point you're talking about. Because even mother gets $100 in her pay packet. How can she be able to send her child to school? So these were some of the ancillary things you do. But in terms of the school feeding program, the ministry implemented a program of 1 banana per day. Right? Where every child will be given 1 banana every day. Bananas are rich. And let me just give my chance and go back. And I want when I get a chance to talk about anything, because every night I'm vilified. Every night, right? Every night. Last said by my home, every other word. Let me tell you something. When early in the campaign, I made a point that if you want to sell your bananas to people, you must be ready to eat it. Let me say it again. If you want to sell your bananas to people, you must only eat it yourself. We spend millions of dollars to ask people to buy our bananas, and they give us tens of millions to buy our bananas from us. All right? So if you want to tell people in other countries to buy these bananas, why can't you eat it yourself? So it is good for you, but it's good for them. When I made the point about bananas, about we should try to eat and consume more of our bananas, I was vilified. You must have thought that I said something that would cause the world to collapse. Because of pure politics. And even though this morning I've stepped away from it, but I had to go there this time. Pure politics. I was vilified because I said so. But I'm pleased to tell you that by these utterances, so many things happened with bananas. There were banana festivals, there were bananas, this and that, and now people are, because the banana plant and the banana fruit, there are countries in Africa. People talk about this guy, what's his name? What's his name again? The guy in Africa. Traore. That people seem to believe that he's good. A lot of these policies are policies that our government has begun to implement, albeit quietly. You understand? So this banana thing, 1 banana a day thing, is something which this government now, we've started a couple of dollars, I think it's $500,000 or $250,000, I'm not sure, where you're going to buy a banana from every farmer, not from every farmer, one banana per child from the farmers, so farmers get some income, because banana is a rich fruit, and then we'll expand it to other things. But we want to make them eat local fruit, because there's a problem with eating now. And then again, things we speak about, health, lifestyles. You understand, lifestyles, diet, exercise. I think that you have to encourage healthcare, a good political weapon to beat politicians on. What about non-communicable diseases? Why aren't you educating people about that? Why aren't you telling people to go get their PSA
aspect, you would have things like educational support, you would have medical support, you would have burial support, you would have business support, and a number of different support mechanisms for people who come to you as an MP seeking to advance their lives. So, for instance, in Grosley, if you are studying online, you would come to the parliamentary representative with a few things. You would come with an acceptance letter from the university. You would come with your ID card, and any other supporting document that shows the financial amount that you require to study in that online program. What we would do with that information is we would do a background check on whether or not the university is accredited. Once we've concluded that the university is accredited, we then, based on what the quarterly allowance is under our CDP, we would then make an amount available to you, in fact, not to you, to the university towards your tuition or whatever financial support you need. In my 4 years, I've done that for more than 120 individuals. So there are different ways for you to get support from your MP. In terms of UE, even UE, there is something called a UniPass if you're studying through UE. So if UE pass, after you've completed the first 3 years of your studies, if in your final year you run into some financial issues, even if you've started online for the first 3 years, in your final year you can actually apply to the Ministry of Education for the UniPass program, where they can get between $10,000 and $15,000 towards completing your studies. I appreciate that question very much, because I know a lot of young people have those questions and they do not know that. So we have, within our constituency development program, as I said, the finances available to help individuals from the constituencies. Sometimes more is available based on the amount of people who actually make the request. But we've helped a lot of young people get their degrees simply because of the mandate put on by the PM that we need to have at least one university graduate in every household in St. Lucia.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Casimir. We have another question.
Good afternoon. My name is Tatiana Freitas. It's an honor to be here asking this question. I am a little bit nervous because this is not really my area of interest per se, but I am trying to be more politically aware as a first-time voter like Stephen. And I do have a question for anybody who's willing to take on the question. Mr. Prime Minister, you spoke on the importance of education in our society. I completely agree. I believe that within the education system, we have the opportunity to tackle social issues, as schooling is the first opportunity as young people to create social behaviors and attitudes towards society. I do believe that when discussing this, we should also take into consideration social literacy. So that's how we treat others in society. Although you did mention that one of the government's initiatives is equality, and I do acknowledge that there are equal opportunities for women in certain sectors of society, whether that be families being matrifocal or the rise of female-owned businesses. However, when we look at harassment, we look at catcalling, we look at sex crimes in our society, the attitude towards women is not where it needs to be in our society to facilitate the general safety of our St. Lucian women. So my question would be, what are your thoughts towards the issue of the attitude and safety of young women, and the attitude towards young women, and the safety of young women? And how do you plan on bringing more awareness to the issues so that because we do not always deem it important in our society? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, I don't know if you want a young woman to answer, but I'm sorry for going to my phone. You see, I make no bones about it. The season that we're in, I have to be in my phone because I don't want to use your platform to just dispel another of the major fabrications and lies that pass in the politics of St. Lucia today. Now, I don't know, I see money making face for me. But I want to apologize to you for doing that. I really want to apologize to you. I want to apologize for doing that. But I cannot allow, I'll answer your question, but I can't allow this to go away, because some of you are going to be listening to that and hearing that and believing that. You understand? Let me tell you something. I have a letter that I'll publish where the Archbishop called me on the telephone, and he said to me that the 23rd of, and I want you to hear that, please, and I'm sorry for using your forum for that. And on the 23rd of November, he's going to be having the church's Jubilee celebrations. And he would be grateful if we would cease all political activity on that day. I drove to his office with my security detail. They were there for me, so they can pledge you I went. In my business, I can't go anywhere somebody following me, which I dislike. You understand? So they can tell you I went there. I went to the Archbishop and I said to him, Your Grace, will the opposition agree? He said the opposition has agreed. And I said to him, Your Grace, we will have no political activity on that day. No political activity. I went to my people and we all agreed on no political activity that day. We advertised nothing for that day. The United Workers' Party decided that they are going to have the launching of their manifesto on the 23rd of November, the same day that we had agreed to with the Archbishop that there will be no political activity. Now, because they are going to be called out, they have taken a preemptive step and they put out this press release, which has absolutely nothing to do with what the Archbishop and us discussed. First of all, they said that SLP in conflict. I'm sorry, but listen to me, please. I know that that's not a place like, but you are young people. You must listen. You must listen. You must hear things that you believe have nothing to do with you. You must hear it, because these are the people these are the people who intend to run your country. And there's nothing wrong in talking politics with you. Nothing wrong with that. And I know you want to be apolitical. Most of you are apolitical. It's a good place, but that's reality, because these are the people who want to run your country. Listen to that press release. SLP in conflict with Christian values in the past weeks. What are Christian? Where is that? I know nothing about it. Only what I know is we said we'll have no political activity on the 23rd of November. That's all the discussion I've had on that event. So here it goes. The Prime Minister forced the Catholic Church to change its plans. What plans? Here's what I did for the Catholic Church. I had, out of deference and respect for the Catholic Church, there were plans to build the House of Justice opposite the Catholic Church. I moved it out of deference for the beliefs of the Catholic Church, and they said that the cathedral was a place they wanted nothing to be in front of that. I moved it and I bought land for $14 million on the other side of the church to put the house of justice. That's what I did, out of deference for the Catholic Church. That's what I did. And if you go now, you will see 2 buildings being built next to each other. The United Workers' Party criticized me for that. So let's go, let's continue. As part of the Jubilee observations, the Catholic Committee, and I don't want to drag the church into that, but the church should correct these falsities. I don't regret, I'm a practicing Catholic. There are some people who are not Catholic but go to communion, are practicing Catholic. As part of its Jubilee observance, the Catholic community asked political leaders for cooperation and restraint so their religious activities could proceed in reverence and peace. Pierre refused. Refused what? Where is the documentary evidence that I published anything to happen on 24th of November? Where is the evidence? The church was left with no choice but to alter its long-prepared Jubilee activities. The only discussion I have with the church on Jubilee, in fact, I won't even say anymore how we've assisted in that regard. I'm not saying. So that's absolutely false. Next. It must be made clear that the government of St. Lucia deliberately decided to call for general elections in the middle of Jubilee celebrations in the Catholic Church. Who was calling to ring the bell? Who was calling to ring the bell? Me? The Catholic Church, with no regard to the request for suspension of, the Catholic Church never asked for suspension of any. The Catholic Church asked for 1 day. 1 day. Tomorrow. On nomination day, in full national view, Deputy Prime Minister said, arrived with a man dressed in a devil. A shocking act. And Papa Jab, toes. Finally, the Christian Council invited all political leaders to sign a national code, a simple commitment of integrity, decency, and Christian responsibility during the election season. Only Alan Shastney agreed. That is not true. That's a lie. The absence made it clear that we have no interest in being held to Christian standards of behavior. That's not true. These events reinforce what many Christians already know. The SLP actions this week are part of a much wider pattern of disregard for the church. The government repealed the burglary laws without a single discussion with the Christian Council. That is a lie. The government has not touched the burglary laws. The court, the High Court, the CCJ, is the people that said the burglary laws are unconstitutional. We have made absolutely no change to the laws in St. Lucia because the CCJ they are the ones who have said so, not us. Pierre remains on the cane of Christians in Nigeria. Even Christians in Nigeria, they keep. Supporters of the Prime Minister declared publicly that he is next to God, an act of political idolatry. No Christian can say. I never said so. The amount of politicians they have called TJZ. They used to call Mikey Pilgrim TJZ. They call John Compton TJZ. No one ever called me. Never called me TJZ. I mean, this is where we're heading. St. Lucia is a Christian nation. The United Workers' Party stands for the Christian Council just because the guy has reneged on a promise that he made to the Catholic Church. That's all. Anyhow, sorry.
Okay, could you please answer her question here? Could you answer her question, please?
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. But I thought it was very important because you know, let us not fool ourselves and hide behind a barrier of being apolitical. Politics is what makes us live. Some of us said we are first-time voters. So I know your forum wasn't for that, but I had to do it. And I really had to do it. I'm sorry. So about the laws, in fact, there are a lot of factors in the legal system that has stopped people from reporting rape because they don't want to get berabbed. There has been some legislative changes. Change number one, you have to get evidence in court. You have to face the accuser in the court. That's one. Change number two is that we have withheld the names of victims of rape. So they don't tell you Mary Jane of Parvey was raped last night. Even notice these have been withdrawn, right? Number three, we've strengthened the vulnerable persons unit and on the police force. But again, all these things need to be expanded. You need to add more to it. But the most important thing is education. We must train our young men to respect women. And further, St. Lucia was the first country to pass the Domestic Abuse Bill, Domestic Violence Act. And that has given us great credence in the international community. We've got the French have come in to help, etc. in that regard. So it's a burning concern that we all have, that we try to deal with.
And in addition to that, Tati, it was this government, in 1995, the Beijing Platform for Action, countries the world over signed on to that. And it was only under our administration that we passed the Domestic Violence Bill, which is now the Domestic Violence Act, which offers an additional protection for women, and like Prime Minister alluded to, explained, protecting, like through our witness protection program and the support that has been given to that as well. So it has taken different approaches with the legislative changes, including the passage of domestic violence bill that protects women on various fronts too, even on the economic side. Withholding financial support for a female in a household, even these things can be taken to the courts now through our passage of that bill. And yes, we do have safe houses for women as well. We work very closely with other entities. For example, Raise Your Voice St. Lucia. There are other social groups that the government works with. The safe houses are kept confidential for obvious reasons, but for me particularly, very happy that no longer will a woman's name have to be mentioned in the courts if she had to suffer any form of sexual abuse or harassment. So at the government level, and remember, government is responsible for policy changes and for adding resources so that these policies are strengthened. So that's just part of how we have made our contribution to that.
In addition to what you said, the catcalling part of this discussion is something that just recently I was absolutely amazed by. I have twin girls, they're 11, they look like they're 14 or 15 already. And, I've had situations where the Prime Minister said something interesting. Prime Minister said that we need to do more to encourage our young men to go in the right direction. A lot of the times we've instituted, I remember when I was Social Transformation Officer in Grosley, we've instituted parenting workshops so that we can better equip parents with the skills to raise, especially young men. And when you have those workshops, 95% are the mothers. So I think we can start going in the direction of fatherhood workshops, specifically to fathers raising children, and of course, young men in the right way. I have never in my life catcalled anybody. And I feel that experience I had recently in town, walking in town, made me look at it even differently, because I don't see it as something a woman should respond to. But I actually experienced a woman responding positively to somebody else catcalling her. So I don't know what you'll need to do as women, if you'll need to come together and have a clarion call for women to just not respond to it, because a man generally would do what they believe a woman will respond to. That's a men that mad anyway, in every society. But if a woman is going to respond to a man saying, psst, then he's going to feel, or in the society, that this is something that's acceptable. Some women actually respond to that. It might be in the minority, but we need to have some more sort of discussion on, how to, even at schools too, how to approach even with young men, because we have situations, even in the first world, where we have an increase of male-female interaction and dating being more through websites than actual interaction male face-to-face. There's a reason for that, because a lot of the times, young men, we can be mature about it, they genuinely don't know how to approach women. And it almost feels like it's taboo to have conversation on how to actually approach people. So unless we can have a society where one, a woman does not respond to it at all, or women say no, they're not responding to that, and two, where it's acceptable for us to have discussions on how we should male-female interact, even to date, even to get in relationships. Unless we stop seeing those things as taboo, then we'll continue to have those situations. That's my personal take on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Casimir. We're winding down to the final two questions.
Okay, I'm Sienna Dalto. I'm a constituent of Castries Southeast. I wanted to return to the matter of education that was mentioned earlier, I guess education and employment, where we spoke to the issue of literacy. And if I know St. Lucia's news and Facebook cycle very well, maybe if not tonight, then maybe by Monday, somebody will have said, the Prime Minister said St. Lucians cannot read. But no. Yes, so I really want to return to the issue because I think it's very important. Up to a few weeks ago, I was telling people that limited literacy or having no functional literacy bars people from a lot of stability. It significantly decreases one's standard of living. And I was fought tooth and nail on this, and I told them that if you heard Ernest Hilaire or Philip J.P.S. say the very same things that I said, you would agree wholeheartedly. So I'm very happy that I now have this evidence. But so to the question now, to what extent are we willing to, one, encourage specialized literacy education and adult literacy education? So that is training persons to educate persons in literacy. I know that there have been like adult literacy programs in St. Lucia before. I'm not sure if there still are, but I think that we should promote them more. So that's the second matter. And the third matter would be at a community level, which is where I would like to invite Senator Jawahir to comment. With the HRDCs and so on, and I think somebody had mentioned that earlier, community libraries. Are we willing to make more investments into that? And are we willing to bring adult literacy programs into the communities? And also into secondary schools where you could assume that some students would have ended up there because they might have underperformed at the CPEA level. We got that? Okay, thank you.
Well, we do have adult literacy programs in communities, and I totally agree with you that it needs to be promoted more. We have CXE programs. I'm trying to remember, if the Minister of Education was here, I'd probably give you that information, but we do have adult literacy programs. To answer more of what you said about the investments in HRDCs, this government under Philip J.P.R., we just invested in a brand new Human Resource Development Center in Grand Riviere. And one of the programs we will be having is something called ALTAP. It is Adult Literacy and Technological Advancement Program, ALTAP. Pretty much to bridge the gap between, those elderly individuals that don't know the basics of computers, the basics of phone etiquette, using technology, just to pretty much catch them up to what they can do, even from home, if they were more computer literate, basic numeracy in terms of maths, English, and being functional. I like the fact that you said being functionally literate. We have a lot of individuals that are at home that went to Standard 6. Do you even know what Standard 6 is? No. Any of you heard of Standard 6? You know, not you are asking. The 19 and 18-year-olds don't even know what Standard 6 is. Yeah, they went to Standard 6. And you have in your inner communities where individuals went to Standard 6, and it's not like they were not bright or anything, but because at home, they were helping take care of a younger child, they were not at school very often and that sort of thing. And then later on in life, they actually start picking up Even for the phones now, more people, let me tell you, Facebook, when I see some of the people that respond to me on Facebook, I'm literally talking about 60, 70, 80-year-olds, sending out information, and you can see that they don't know exactly what to do. And so that program will be sort of to bridge that gap. And I'm sure Senator, when she gets in, will be replicating that, so I'll allow her to say her bit on that.
And Minister Casimir, you needed to also add that you introduced AllTap when
I was Social Transformation Officer in Grow today.
Right. So it's not a new thing. It's something that has been in existence before. To your question on community centers, in times past, governments have built community centers, and sometimes they have been abandoned. What we refuse to do is build exorbitant structures and take your parents or your hard-earned taxpayers' money and just have rooms and rooms and rooms that are unavailable to you. Doesn't mean that we don't find ways to utilize those structures. For example, the one at Bexar. You and I had that conversation before, but they're very important because that's where you can host those meetings, and especially if you're having an event in your community. So say, for example, we want to, in the forestry community, have a meeting, we have to go to the school. If we want to have a political meeting, you have to go to the school. The establishment of the community centers, in my opinion, should not be based on just an exorbitant structure that every community wants an HRDC. But how do we make them functional? How do we get the youth and sports groups to meet and make their contribution to society? How do we get the community development foundations to do the same? I know you have a follow-up, yes.
I just wanted to make sure it's understood that within a structure that's already existing, to ensure that we establish programs, for instance, literacy programs, to fully utilize them. And it also helps to employ persons from the community as well. So, yeah, it's a full circle kind of thing.
Yeah, right now, Minister, all the community centers that have been rehabilitated are in use.
Well, not all of them, but the majority of them. We do have some community centers that are still awaiting some structural changes to ensure that you have those programs. For instance, in my constituency, Lafayette Mothers and Fathers Hall, we had some challenges because the facility was a Mothers and Fathers Hall. And again, that's back in the day where mothers and fathers were they formed a group, a community group to actually harness the next generation of mothers and fathers. It was a gift given to the mothers and fathers by a previous parliamentary representative, and now we expanded within some computers there, and now it requires some more expansions for the people of Lafayette, Kaimajé to actually have that program, because we have retired teachers like Austin from Kaimajé who wants to do a little bit of programs in auto mechanics, some basic things to actually get some mentorship programs and getting other individuals some talents and skills developed in that community. So most of them, and we're hoping that more of that will be done in the new dispensation from December 2nd.
Thank you very much. And we are at our final question.
Good afternoon. My name is Jaden Francis, and I just have a question from a student studying Budapest from Ancillary Canaries. She wants to know, while it is greatly appreciated, what financial impact on the government does the removal of guarantors for scholarship recipients have, as well as what job opportunities for students who finish their degrees in these studies of overseas, in the ministries of infrastructure, finance, and health.
Okay, so I will start by the first part in terms of guarantors. Somebody asked about the difference in governance, in government and governance, and what's the difference. This is one of the instances where we've had a policy in this nation for time immemorial that if I, Kenson Casimir, who came from meager means, want to get some form of a scholarship, that I have to go out and find individuals that can provide account information that shows that they can afford to be my sponsor should something happen. This has been there for many governments. This is perhaps one of the most prohibitive things you can do to a disenfranchised young individual in a community. for you to qualify for a scholarship, you need to go and do research, make phone calls to find somebody that can act as your sponsor, have an account. But there's a reason why you are disenfranchised, because perhaps it's difficult for you to actually get somebody that would do it. And I would dare say that if you could have gotten that, probably you don't even need the scholarship. So this is something that the previous administration could have said that they would have done in the interest of people that are from meager means. I feel very passionate about that because obviously for me to get to where I am, I had to go through that process. I had to go and find somebody that can give account information, their personal business, to an individual, despite the fact that I have my CXCs, I have my A-levels that I had to go back and make sure, by my CXCs I had to make sure I go back and get my A-levels, and then I've qualified for a scholarship, and then I have that extra nugget. It is this Honorable Prime Minister that came to Cabinet and said, this is nonsense. So, whereas individuals who probably have better lives may not see the impact of doing that, but who feels it knows it. We have to make things easier for individuals that are from the lower income brackets. So on that particular basis, I feel strongly that even those basic little things make a huge difference in people's lives. When we're talking about dealing with crime, we've had instances in this country where an individual would have probably qualified for a scholarship and would have gone and look around, look left, look right, and cannot find somebody that can give them a simple statement of income for them to get a scholarship. That individual can give up on that. Me, I can't get that, forget about it. And then it's somebody from probably from an income bracket that could have afforded it, would have gotten that particular person's scholarship. So when we remove things like that, we have to be more of our brother's keepers. We have to understand that policy is not just done just by fly by night, but this is a government that is caring and that is making it easier for all individuals from all stratas to benefit from what this government is doing. And I think this is a major accomplishment by this government. I think you had a second one. I can't remember because I got distracted when I did that.
What job opportunities does someone studying abroad have coming back to St. Lucia in government ministries?
Well, of course, we have a public service that could definitely provide all that information. They can apply for the public service. When I came back from university, one of the first things I did was I went to the public service and found out what the process was to actually become either a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer. So based on what that person's qualification is, they should evaluate or they should go to the public service to find out exactly what is out there for them. Again, we have to live in our realities. We have to live in our realities because some of what we study, there's a government priority list for a particular reason. A lot of people ask, why do we have a government priority list and that sort of thing? If we have, with 180,000 people, we have 2,000 lawyers in this country. If we have 2,000 lawyers in this country, why would government, who need people in the hospitality sector that is expanding, why would they decide to give scholarships to other people to go and study law again, to come back into St. Lucia where there's just no space for them? So I always encourage young people who come to me before they go to university, especially if you're from a low-income bracket, to look at what the government priority list is, because the likelihood, it's not guaranteed, the likelihood of you finding a job based on what is in the government priority list is far greater than you go and study something and then you say, I can't come back to St. Lucia, they have no space for that. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much, guys. We have come to the end of our second session. Allow me to thank our representatives, the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Senator Lisa Jawahil, Representative for Castries Southeast, and
thank you.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, and finally, Honorable Kenton Kazime, Minister of Youth, Development and Sports, and the representative for Grozile, I have not forgotten. Thank you very, very, very much. I think I speak for everyone when I say this has been a very engaging session. Very, very engaging. So thank you so much for answering all of our questions in depth. Thank you very much for that. One final round of applause for them, and I will call Miss Jada Wilson to do a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much for coming here today to be a part of the first and hopefully not the last Youth and Democracy Forum in St. Lucia. I want to extend heartfelt appreciation to all those who contributed to making this event powerful, meaningful, and truly centered on youth leadership. First, I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the representatives of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Honorable Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, Representative Kenson Kazimi of Grizzly, and the Minister of Youth Development and Sports, and Ms. Lisa Jawahir, who's going up for Kashri Southeast. All the best. Your presence at a youth-led and youth-centered forum reflects a meaningful commitment to transparency, dialogue, and partnership with young people. Thank you for taking the time to be here, to listen, to engage, and to engage thoughtfully with the concerns and insights of the nation's youth. I also extend my sincere thanks to the United Workers' Party, including the leader of the opposition, Alan Chasney, and Tommy Descott, who accompanied him today. Your willingness to participate in this event underscores the importance of cross-party engagement in shaping a better future for St. Lucia. We genuinely appreciate your effort to be present, to hear young voices directly, and to contribute to this important national conversation. To Ms. Natalie Jolie Fanis, thank you for your presence and your support. To Ayadel Hippolyte and Kathy Moplezi of the Citizens for Peace and Prosperity, thank you for your partnership and your continued commitment to civic development. To Mr. Nurani Aziz of the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association, thank you for your guidance, encouragement, and ongoing support throughout this process. To the Tourism Enhancement Fund, we are deeply grateful for your belief in this initiative and providing the support to make today possible. Your investment in youth empowerment and civic engagement is already creating real, tangible impact for this forum today. To the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, thank you for hosting us and for fostering an environment where young people can learn, lead, and participate actively in national issues. To our moderators, CARICOM Youth Ambassador Naim Filbert and Davian Alexander, thank you for guiding today's discussion with professionalism, balance, and clarity. To every vendor, volunteer, and supporter who contributed to the logistics and smooth running of this forum, your work made all the difference and we appreciate it deeply. To Dequan Charles, who has unfortunately already left, thank you for standing with me throughout the planning and execution of this forum. Your support, consistency, and dedication helped transform this vision into a real and impactful event. I appreciate your partnership more than words can express. Finally, to the young people here today, thank you for showing up, speaking up, and engaging with maturity, honesty, and courage. You are the reason this forum exists. You are the reason that it will continue. Thank you all and have a wonderful afternoon.
And thanks, everyone. And we're very happy as Citizens for Peace and Prosperity to have worked with Jada and Dequan. Give them a round of applause. This was all their idea. Yeah, this was all their idea, and we tried as the old people to kind of stand back and just support. As you can see, we tried to make it all youth-led, but as Citizens of Peace and Prosperity, what we're about, we're a civil society organization that's trying to promote a more mature political landscape, a more mature political culture, and to engage. And this is a first step in engaging, and we started with the youth. So we hope that you were pleased, representatives. Thanks for coming out. Yes, and we're so glad you took the time. We know it's a hot season, but the youth matter, right? So thank you all very much. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Ever changing. Communities, jobs, and economies are continually being transformed. This is why we need incredible minds to connect problems with innovative solutions, to disrupt and create new industries, to enable businesses to think sustainably, to shape evidence-based leaders and the next generation of visionaries. SALCC helps you to shape your career. Your passion is calling. Your future is standing by. Tap into your potential. Virtual and on-site classes, dedicated faculty, diverse student experiences, and highly recognized programs. Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. Apply today and fast-track your career.